Hi, this is Allie Levine with ITS Applications Training at Wichita State University, and today I want to talk to you about how to create a what-if analysis in Excel. So in front of me, I have a scenario, a fictional scenario of a business who is contemplating some different possible scenarios. So they're trying to figure out if they have enough money to delay a start date. They're thinking about opening either June 1st, July 1st, or August 1st. So 3 possible scenarios there. There's also 2 scenarios for how much they stand to lose per day if they wait to open. So maybe they're losing $250 a day in income as they wait to open up, or maybe they lose $500 per day. So 2 possible scenarios there. So 3 scenarios for a start date, 2 scenarios for how much they stand to lose per day. And I know this is a vast simplification of accounting, but I think it serves us well to explore how this feature works. So different scenarios there. We're going to talk about how to create this, but this is a final version of a possible document you might have created. And I want to figure out how much my June start date with a $500 loss would be. So I'm going to click on this little box here. All right, looks like my remaining balance would be $32,500. I've also incorporated a chart here. July start date with a $500 loss. Looks like I'm going to have $32,000 in expenses and a remaining balance of $17,500. So little donut chart there. So this is kind of a fancy version. This is incorporating a chart and some macros here, but really the heart of this is the what if scenarios created with columns A and B here, and I'm going to show you how to create that. Okay, so here is the heart of my document here. This is where all of the formulas live. Just to examine what is happening here, my scenarios are going to incorporate a start date of June 1st, July 1st, or August 1st. I'm going to stand to lose either $250 a day or $500 a day for every day that I delay. But there's some other stuff in here. One thing that is stagnant is I know I've got maybe $50,000 in reserve in this fictional company. I'm trying to figure out if I have enough money to delay my start date. So that is something that is just stagnant here in the cell. Where my formulas live, I'm trying to figure out how many days until a start date. So that's incorporating a date diff function here. And if you're interested in learning about that, we cover that in the advanced formulas session. We'd love to see you there. So I know June 1st is 35 days away. And I'm going to incorporate that by multiplying that by the loss per day, so 35 days times however much the loss is, whether it's $250 or $500, to figure out how much total expenses it's going to cost me to delay here. So total expense is $17,500, so that's whatever's in B2 times whatever's in B3. And then, of course, remaining balance, just simple subtraction here to figure out if I've got enough money left. The most important thing is that you understand that we're going to create scenarios to change these 2 cells, and whatever formulas you've created surrounding them will change accordingly. So to create a what-if analysis, you're going to head over to the Data tab on the ribbon, the Forecast group on the right side, and it is called a what-if analysis. There's a little drop down there. What-if analysis, I want to do a scenario manager. I'm going to create multiple scenarios here. In the scenario manager, I don't have any existing scenarios yet, so this is blank, but there will be some here once you've created them. I'm going to start by clicking on Add. You can name these scenarios anything you want. They can have spaces, anything that's going to help you remember what your different scenarios are. In my case, I'm going to create some names here that are going to help me remember that I'm going to be changing the date to something and the loss for something. So my first scenario might just be what I'm looking at right here. I'm going to say my first scenario is a June 1st start date, $500 loss per day. Second question is going to be changing which cells. Which cells we're going to create our scenario? Well, we know we want to change up either our start date or our loss per day. Notice how there's some little instructions down here to control click on cells to select non-adjacent changing cells, which is going to be the case for me. I'm going to select B1 as one that will possibly change, and I'm going to hold down my control key and click on B3 to select cells B1 and B3. I'm going to click OK. It's asking for my first scenario, which is conveniently already plugged in here, so there's not much I need to do here. Now from here, if I click OK, I've only created one scenario, and I actually want to create kind of a handful here. So when I hit add, it's going to take me to a new scenario, prompting me to create a new scenario, which is kind of what I want. So I'm going to say maybe a July 1st start date, $250 per day loss. I'm probably not being consistent with my titling here, but that would be something you would want to do. Make sure that just to be neat, maybe you'd want to be consistent in your titles. So changing cells, that held on to B1 and B3, that's convenient. That's what I wanted. I'm going to click OK. This time I'm going to throw in a July 1st start date and $250 for a scenario in B3. And I'm going to keep going through and clicking add until I've completed all of the scenarios for all the different start dates and the loss per day. And then when I'm finished, when I click OK, I'm going to see a whole list of scenarios. So I'll catch up with you then. Okay, I've created a handful of scenarios here, and I kind of cleaned up my wording a little bit. So I have June 1st, loss per day 500, June 1st, loss per day 250, etc. for each of my possible start dates. I can check any of these by, if I wanted to run, for instance, that June 1st, $500 per day loss, I'm going to select it and press show. It's going to change all of the formulas that I've created in here. By the way, you can double click on these too rather than clicking show if you'd rather. So just a reminder of how we get here. When you open up your spreadsheet anew, or if you send this to somebody and you want them to know how to run a what-if analysis, they're going to go to the Data tab on the ribbon, What-if analysis drop-down, and Scenario Manager. That's how they'll get back where you are right here to be able to show any of these scenarios. There's also a little summary button here. I don't know if this would interest you. This was going to create a sheet in our document with all the possible scenarios and outcomes. So this might be interesting to you. One thing you do have to set is what your results cell will be, what cells you want it to calculate. So maybe I just want to know what my remaining balance would be for all of the possible scenarios. Super easy. I just click OK, and I've got every possible scenario and the results in here. So kind of a handy little trick to know there. So to get back to the final version I showed you at the very beginning, obviously the real heart of this document is what's happening in column B here. This is where everything is calculated, but just to possibly inspire you on some more ideas, you can create charts and graphs that will go along with these numbers. I also incorporated some macros here in my text boxes, so I could just kind of run these what-if scenarios really quickly. This would be a really handy solution if you're working with people who are not very comfortable in Excel, and maybe if you were trying to explain to them to go to the Data tab and run a what-if analysis, they might not understand really how to do that, may not be super comfortable with it, and this just sort of makes the experience a little easier for them. So just something to spark an idea. If you want to learn how to create this donut chart, I do have another blog post on that, which you can find on Office Bytes. If you're interested in learning how to create macros, I do have a whole session on that, so I'd love to see you there for that as well. You probably found this video through the Office Bytes blog. I'm going to include on that blog post both a link to this video, obviously, and some written instructions that go along with the video if you prefer to see it in that format, along with these files, these Excel files, so you can take a look at this kind of final macro-enabled version, and also just a version just with a what-if analysis, incorporating what you see in columns A and B here. I hope this was helpful and inspired some ideas of some things that you can do with your data, and I will see you all in a future video.